¿Qué pasa? Hola, ¿cómo estás, mi amigos? Re-seeing the self. Maturation is often a process in which we are redefining ourselves. As children, we learn to individuate ourselves from our parents, and in puberty, we run a merry race with our rapidly changing bodies and feelings. Spirituality speaking, we never stop going through this process of redefining and re-seeing ourselves. He, Kiki, shares an experience. In the middle of normal activities, in full waking consciousness, I started hearing a voice talk to me softly and quietly inside my head. I engaged in a conversation with it and eventually asked for guidance to a problem. And definitely got more than I was bargaining for, because the reply was, "The source of all problems is the sorrow which arises when you regard your self-made images as real." Our self-made images is a good way of saying our personality shells and our egos. We repeatedly change this self-image in life, transforming ourselves from children to adult, from daughter to mother or son to father, from taker to giver. Those of QO say, "This is a process which must partake of the breaking or shedding of the older ways of perceiving, of thinking, and of doing, so that there might be made a place for a new way of perceiving and of bringing forth that quality of compassion and understanding that has long been hidden within the hearts of many who have incarnated with the desire that they may show forth this energy of love that will aid not only their own evolutionary growth, but will enhance the opportunity to be of service to others, and will also lighten the planetary vibrations as a whole." Those clues and inklings within ourselves that presage change are sometimes mighty tough to grasp, and things can get bumpy. Right now, I am in the midst of the second major metamorphosis of my life. It has been very difficult and very painful. I am questioning things that I thought I would never question, wanting to do things I thought I'd never want to do. All the things that were right and good in my life no longer feel right or even important to me. I am feeling a great deal of betrayal because I thought what was how it would always be. This has caused anger and resentment, as if I had found out I was going to die. My old self is dying, and he is fighting to hang on. My new self is angry that he is being held back, but it's not his time yet. Much anger on both sides. Add this to a naturally explosive nature and, well, bear with me as I work through this transition. My last big metamorphosis was in 1992. I really related to what Romney is saying here, for my old self did die. I was quite aware of it and ready for that to happen. It just didn't want to die with her. Since I was, at the time, physically sick unto death, I barely made it, and it is with great gratitude that I praise Jesus Christ, the intervention of Mother Mary and the saints, and the prayers of so many people here on earth for helping me to survive what was clearly a death process. That version of myself which died was what I have since thought of as the Aurak model. Don always called me that nickname, which is my name, Carla, spelled backwards. Don's unspoken but inexorable need was to have me entirely dependent on him and free to move at any time in any direction he chose. He strongly resisted all my attempts at working for a living except to help him. So, at the beginning of our relationship, he hired me himself. I stayed home and worked for Don when he was gone. Working in the cockpit, he was flying a 727. When he was at home, I simply enjoyed a lot of reading. He never would let me work when he was around. It was a stretch for me to find contentment when I was not always busy and without a family to care for. But I adored Don and thought him worth the adjustment. In hindsight, I still think that, very much so. It was what my beloved companion needed. I am very glad I could do it for him. I had 16 years to practice being Aurak and got pretty good at it, becoming that dependent personality who was always there for Don. After Don's death in 1984, I continued to work through the mutual death process started by my experience of the suicide, for we had become so close that his death was also mine. The question was whether I would survive it. For 6 years, I was so inundated with the difficult feelings of concerning that terrible loss that nothing really penetrated. I simply walked in the desert with all the negative emotions, anger, grief, horror, guilt, sheer pain, and endless sorrow. I knew it was the test of faith of my whole life. My nights were filled with nightmares, and my days with unbidden images of Don at his most ill, my unknowing words at their most hurtful. Eventually, the day came when I realized I again actually liked myself. This was near the end of 1990. That was the beginning of the birth of my current model of myself, at least in my own personal myth. I remained very ill physically until 1992, when I finally had half of my colon removed, which strengthened out a lot of my physical troubles, and then I got rehabilitation for the rheumatoid conditions which had bent and injured me into a reclining wheelchair and bend round. Slowly I achieved vertically and began entering into a more active life, driving, cooking, gardening, and in general having a life. Taped letters, which had been my only avenue of communication with readers and students for years, gave way to email and regular mail as I found my way to computers and light touch keyboards. My arthritic hands could work, but I still had several years of searching to find my stride, my voice, the way it felt rightest to express my being. I had to go through the old self-image of former models of myself, especially the lady volunteer and professional librarian personalities, trying them on to see if they still fit. Re-seeing the self can be a tremendously long and wearying experience. One of my California wanderer friends and mother of 3 says, when the Beatles' White Album came out, I felt like the blackbird in McCartney's song. It really struck a chord in me. Looking back, I think it was because I knew that was, more or less, the situation I had placed myself in. There have been a couple of times in my life when I felt I was being told to fly into the night with broken wings. However, I now know that these were moments I had waited for and planned for, and that when I did learn to fly and to see, I would be free in a sense. Whenever I feel frustrated or confused or afraid, I think of that song. It validates my feelings and gives me hope at the same time. We are all those who fly with broken wings when it comes to re-seeing the self. We are most likely to have worked through this process only when we have had to. When those times come, we feel awash and catalyst and inundated by the feelings invoked. It is not easy. It is easier if we choose to do this, though, continuously. The idea is good and solid to move beneath the appearances and the surface of things to the heart of self. How you choose to see yourself is your illusion. It is your choice. We do not deny any of those things which are negative, seen against the positive standard of healthy, smiling, vibrant evolution. We do not deny hate or death or jealousy, pain or anguish or loss. We only say to you that they are a part of that which is an illusion, and that at the heart of each of these things is a transformation which is so positive that joy leaps from every tear that we may shed in the learning of these lessons. We really do have great depths of this living water of the roots of mind. Great possibilities as we reimagine ourselves. When we change our minds, we change the reality we live in. Our reaction to anything or anyone comes from within, not from without. Change the thought, change the reality. It's that simple. We mold our own reality. The challenge, then, is to find our deepest heart of self. One way of digging towards that heart is to follow one's desire. We would direct your attention to the factor of your own desire, which works deeply and often in hidden ways within those situations which present themselves to you, colored in various ways. If you find that the situation which now serves as catalyst to you has the feel or the coloration of frustration, it is well that you step back for a moment to examine what in the situation you find frustrating, and a step further back to determine what desire of your own there may exist to make possible the kind of frustration that you feel. When there is a confusion of desire, frustration is almost inevitable. It behooves one then to ask ever more deeply, what is the true nature? What is the true object of that which you desire? If one settles for a good that seems, for the moment, to satisfy the desire, one will surely be given such catalysts as will eventually show the limits of this desire, or more properly put, the limits of the self-image of what is desired. Another technique of re-seeing the self is visualization of the self as various attributes or essences which we feel express the heart of self. William prefers to imagine himself as love. This love-joy emotion already exists in each of us. It always has. In fact, it is all that we started with. We just get in its way. We hide it for our own reasons. We attempt to define ourselves in ways we are not. They, the abilities and bliss, were always who I was. They were just not a part of who I thought I was. They were not a part of who I pretended to be. You might say that I have done is gone through a process of undefining myself. Permit the core me to be without all the definition I have tried to apply. We can visualize ourselves as light. The way that I have come to understand, to sort out the complexities to become simplicities, is to pause for less than one moment in any given situation to call forth my who I really am, that which is beyond all physical teachings, my pure light, and then to bring all of my physical remembrances back in to form a whole picture. This then gives me access to a truth of responding in a manner for the highest good. It is then my choice to do so or not. We can choose to envision ourselves as the Creator. We do not wish to trifle with questions of identity, but wish instead to ask each, in the mind's eye, to move inward and inward until there is that point, bright as a diamond, crystalline and lovely, this tiny point which is the adit to the deep mind's union with the one infinite Creator. To the deep heart's contact and unity with the Logos, the articulated expression of love, which is your crystalline nature. Feel that inmost point of light, that shuttle to intelligent infinity. And know now that all falls away before that one identity. Enter into that point of light and become the light. We may decide to work on the eternal aspect of ourselves. Your identity is of utmost importance to you at this time, your true identity that resides in every cell of your being and every part of the universe. This identity is one which you have carried with you throughout eons of what you call time, and it is an identity that you shall continue to carry with you, and that you shall continue to realize more and more fully as you evolve in your conscious awareness. We can opt to focus on our infinite or universal aspect. Think of yourself in this way, as a sun or a blossom, anything but a human, For to think of oneself as human is always to move to the outer. For your true self is no outer thing. Your true self is without distortion and infinite in love. We cannot teach you how to realize compassion. You cannot teach yourself how to realize the compassion that is locked within you. And even with the dent of the hardest and most intransigent work upon the self, you cannot add one whit of compassion to your personality. You can teach yourself to perform compassionate acts, but the key to that infinite compassion that is truly yours is not to be found within teaching and learning. It is locked within the present moment, and it is when you go into the present moment that you are vulnerable to a deeper realization of yourself. Finally, we can choose to focus upon our perfect self. Indeed, it is well to think of yourself as a dancer through life, for each of you dances or walks, is grateful or isn't. And these infinitesimal changes in the way you think about yourself and the way you think about the body can indeed bring you to a more mindfulness as you revisualize yourself in perfection, in harmony, and in unity. Mi, mi amor, mi amor. Arrivederci, ciao bella.